Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is enjoying this. I guess we call it a shockingly chilly Wednesday morning here. The weather is changing, folks. So if this is your first time with us, let me just do a little brief introduction. My name is Sadie Uribe, and I'm the media producer for the Los Angeles Regional SBDC Network. The SBDC is the national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, helping to stimulate economic growth through business advising and development. We offer no-cost services to the local businesses through funding provided by the U.S. Small Business Administration and from the California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, Go Biz. The Los Angeles Regional Small Business Development Center Network serves Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. What do? Well, we offer no-cost business advising, meaning that you can meet one-on-one via phone or Zoom to address your specific needs and challenges. And we also offer wonderful programming and workshops to help and adapt and grow your business. So on that note, I am going to say good morning to my favorite person on Wednesday mornings, Lori. Lori, how are you?
I'm doing fabuloso. Those have been with me for a long time know every once in a while I'll bring out the fabuloso comment. So I'm bringing out the fabuloso this morning. And for those of you who are parents, I'm starting to see little school buses. I bet you're so happy. Kids back to school. So yes, Sadie, it goes with the cooler weather that the kids get to go back to school. Okay, guys, we're going to have another fun day today. So let me get started here. So first of all, I did add a new webinar this month. I added, should you be charging your customer sales tax? And I'm going to talk about sales tax in Lori's talk in a minute. But I'm starting the financial literacy session. Okay, I got to change that last one to 3. I'll get that some point. But Sadie's putting the information in the chat, and she's spot on with it being correct. Bringing back that legal structure. If you have any questions on legal structures, if you think an LLC is taxed differently than a sole prop, if you think you should be an S corp for taxation, jump in on that webinar because there's a lot of misunderstanding and people are making legal choices without really knowing what it's all about. Okay, I want to do a shout out. I'm going to do it a couple times on this. I may keep this a little bit longer. I've been asked to write success stories. They're doing a big highlight of success stories at the SBDC and especially focusing on people who've been guests on the show. But I want to do a shout out for that person in the audience that has a success story, meaning you're out there, you're doing it. Remember, success, guys, is you're trying. It's not about I reached any great milestone or mountain or I can do this. It's I'm out there, man. I'm doing it. That's successful. Okay. So if you've got a story, but you don't want to be a guest on my show, you don't want that public spotlight, but you still wouldn't mind having a story written about you, do a shout out to me and you get my email. Sadie always puts my email, do a shout out. These are the kind of questions I'm going to ask. And these stories are real important. They're used on the website of the SBDC, but also they go to Washington. So when they meet with Congress to get additional funding for the SBDC, these stories are actually read, and it's a way for the congressperson, I should say, to get their hands around what it is we do. You know, they may not understand financials or anything along that line, but when they hear a story from a company on how they were helped by the SBDC, they say, I think we need to give them some more funding. And then we can help you guys and have more programs like this and other webinars that happen. So if you're up to it, please do a shout out and we'll get you signed up to have a story talked about you. Okay, sales tax. I'm going to talk about this one aspect today. The webinar I give goes into lots more details, but this is a topic that I would say is concerning to me. And let me tell you why. So when we talk about sales tax, so if you are in the state of California, sales tax is added to all products and some labor. Don't think no labor is taxable. Some labor is taxable. But what I want to speak about today is if you are selling on a online platform, and I mean something like Amazon or Etsy, and especially I want to speak about Shopify today, okay? So when we talk about sales tax, we always have to look at 3 aspects. We first calculate the amount that is to be collected and then remitted. So we calculate a tax rate based on a jurisdiction of where you're selling into. So where the product or the service is selling into, products mostly in California. Then we collect it as part of the invoice, right? And then the business owner holds on to those funds till they're either a monthly, quarterly, or yearly. Most business owners are a yearly payer back, remittance. And then you take the funds you collected on behalf of the sales tax for the California Tax and Fee Department Administration. That's a big mouthful. And you remit it to them. Okay. So some online platforms such as Amazon and Etsy do all three. They calculate, collect, and remit. Shopify does not. They calculate and collect. But unless you understand that you have to look for all three words, when you go through the Shopify website, you may not catch that because it says we handle it easily. But then you got to read the next sentence. We provide reporting. We handle this. We give you this. We give you this. They don't say they're filing. They don't say they're remitting. They do offer third party. I think Avalara and also TaxJar are ones they mention, but they're not doing it for you. So here's the scary part, guys. I have seen this so much. This is why I'm talking about it a lot. People go on Shopify, they set up their products, they click the little button thinking Shopify is taking care of the sales tax. And in essence, they're calculating it, collecting it, putting it in your bank account, but not remitting it. So legally, you're collecting sales tax without a sales tax license and you're keeping it. Yeah, big time fraud. Okay. And whether you make a mistake or it was on purpose, it doesn't matter. It still gets qualified as a fraudulent behavior. And I have seen people get caught with this. So it's a very scary thing. Make sure if you're selling on an online platform, you look for those three words: calculate, collect, and remit, especially the remit word. Now that you look through Amazon and Etsy and you start scrolling in their sales tax section, you will see the word remittance or remit or filing, and you will be very clear on what I'm speaking about. Okay, let's talk about upcoming shows. Next is, I hope that's next week. I think I'm missing a week in there. So I have, yeah, I think I am. Next week, I actually am. I'm missing a week. We're actually going to be talking about loans and grants and different ways to fund businesses next week. So I got to make sure I add that. September 11th, we got Jamie Milner. I think I always say her last name wrong, Milner. And she is going to have a complete discussion on empowerment and finding the force within ourselves. It's going to be a great discussion. I'm not going to give any spoilers on where her information comes from. You'll be enjoying it when she speaks. On September 18th, Dahlia is coming back on. She is with DF Accounting, and I've asked her to talk about how to select a good accountant, how to do an interview, how to know if you have a good accountant, amongst a bunch of other topics around tax preparation, accounting, etc. And then September 25th, I've asked Kathleen to come back on the show. If you've seen it about 3-4 weeks ago, she was on, and she mentioned that she also has a company called The Selling Edge. She has a huge background in sales training, training other people to sell. And in the audience, that became a huge discussion as she mentioned a couple sales techniques. I immediately reached out to her and said, Kathleen, can you come on and let's denote a whole program to selling? Because one thing I know that many of you as small company owners, you struggle with sales. You may not have a sales background, so you really struggle with that aspect. So we're going to be talking all about sales and selling your products or services. Okay, today is going to be another one of those fun ones, guys. So Fitzgerald Timothe is a seasoned digital marketing specialist with over 8 years of experience, currently thriving as a senior marketing operations specialist. His entrepreneurial journey took a bold, very bold, you'll see, turn during the pandemic when he opened an ice cream shop. Despite the challenging business landscape, Fitzgerald navigated through it with determination and learned invaluable lessons along the way. Although the shop closed late last year, this experience only fueled his passion for the ice cream business. Fitzgerald, welcome to the show today.
Hey, good morning, guys.
It is so good to have you here. We can't see you yet, so you might want to hit your camera.
It's
I know
coming a
it's
little.
coming. No worries, it's
Oh,
coming.
there it
Okay, there.
goes.
Yeah, it's going to come soon. So, not seeing you yet, but as soon as it comes on, we'll see. If not, we'll just have a chat in the meantime.
There
There
we
you
go.
go. I want everybody to see.
Hey.
I was kidding with him before the show. I was like, he's the most professionally dressed guest we have ever had. So I'm kidding with that. It is so good to have you on the show. We're going to start out by talking a little bit about the background and how you kind of got to where you started an ice cream shop. But at the beginning, I just wanted to mention I am really interested and excited to have this conversation because as we were talking off screen before we started, the I shut down my company is one of the biggest fears that entrepreneurs have, feeling like once it happens, they're no longer going to exist on planet Earth. Okay. Something's going to happen to them terrible. So
Yeah.
you look really well, you look alive, you look happy, you look excited. The audience. Okay, look, he's still alive. He's going to tell his story, but let's get this fear out. But before we go there, tell us a little bit, digital marketing, ice cream, how did all that come about?
Well, I've been in marketing for, like I mentioned, in an official capacity about 10 years at this point. But before that, I used to kind of run my own sports blog with my brother. And so that kind of, learning SEO, back end of a website, how to get people to engage with certain posts and how to get them to come to your website was a big thing for us. And that's where I kind of learned how to kind of learn well, that's how I got into marketing initially. So that's what sparked it, and then I got into it in an official capacity later
Okay, I
on.
can't I
So
can't let that go. A sports blog? What sport? Any specific? I could see you being even a doctor.
everything under the sun: football, basketball, golf, tennis, hockey, baseball, anything over the sun, under the sun, anything that had to do with sports, I would cover. I would beat right. I would actually go to live events as well. Back when I lived in New York, I would go to Knicks games, cover Knicks games, even entertainment events, because my brother did the entertainment side of things with music, artists, things of that nature. So we would go to those events and we would take footage. We would, write the copy, then we would post it to our website. So that's how I initially got started in marketing.
Oh my God, I could
Yeah.
just totally see you do that. Totally see you doing that. Okay, so how did ice cream come into your world?
I felt I've always been interested in ice cream just always loved ice cream shops. I loved the atmosphere. And I always looked at them like I would love to do that one day. Not thinking I would actually do it one day.
That's one of
Um,
those things we just say, I'd love to do that, but I really didn't mean to do it.
yeah, exactly. And being in California and seeing a lot of, original places. Yeah, I know some of you guys might be familiar with, I forgot the name of they do dip the bars down in Newport Beach. They're very popular. They've been around for years. And so on the weekend, that was a thing for me. I would go get a ice cream dip bar, roll it in whatever it is, Reese's
Yeah.
Pieces, Oreo cookies. And that was every Saturday and Sunday, religiously. And so at that point, that's when I was like, you know what? This might not be as hard as I think it is. It's a simple concept because that's all they did was dip bars at the time. And so I saw myself doing it. But what really kind of pushed me, and I won't say thrust, but pushed me into it was the pandemic. I know like a lot of people, we were all home in limbo, not knowing what was next. Me personally, I was in a digital marketing specialist role. I was furloughed, and I was at home waiting for a phone call to come back to work. And so the phone call just took longer and longer to come, and I got fed up. I just got fed up with somebody else controlling my destiny, controlling, where my life goes. I didn't like that feeling. I didn't like sitting there and being in limbo. And so I started drawing up a business plan for an ice cream shop. So I said, and initially it was just to I wanted to kind of get things going. And then at that point, I wanted to then transition back into the 9 to 5. So it wasn't supposed to be something I was going to do full time, but
I see.
once I opened up my first brick and mortar and things were rolling, it's like, wait a minute, I might be able to do this full time, and I have to go back. And so I dedicated everything to the shop at that time. So
That there is so much to unpack there, but I have to go back to what you said, and you spoke it so beautifully about fed up. didn't want somebody else to have control over your destiny. I mean, I keep saying that the pandemic, it had so many bad things, but I think one of the good things that came out of it, it caused so many people, just like you were saying, to just kind of halt and say, is
Mhm.
this what I really want, on many, many different levels? And when we as human beings just get caught up in doing instead of being, if I can use that expression, we don't even know what we're doing or why we're doing it. And when we stop, suddenly things don't make sense anymore. And I think what's wonderful about it is ideas and opportunities that seem so far away and distance become a bigger and bigger dream. And I add this because as we go through the conversation, we're going to see you had a dream, you went after it, a little different than you thought. And even though it didn't work out for now, it didn't lose the ability to dream.
Mhm.
And I think that's why, the point I wanted to make is like, I think that when we give up hope or when we quit dreaming or we keep having creativity flowing through our life, that's when things are desperate, not when things don't work out. It's when we no longer are being creative in our life and dreaming.
I agree. I
So
agree.
tell us about the brick and mortar. Where was it? How
Um,
people love to know how you go from an idea to actually have a lease. They see that as the hugest crevasse to jump. So walk us through a little detail in that.
like I said, because of my marketing background, I've been with companies that have cut corners, that have, and a big part of marketing for me is competitive research and also learning your landscape and learning how to not say cut corners, but learn how to make things happen without a ton of resources. So being in marketing and kind of hustling all my life, be like, okay, how can I make this happen? Because at the time it was funny. I had a few options. Look, I had a partner. We looked at locations, multiple locations, and then we kind of settled on one that was in Glendora Marketplace with a movie theater, Best Buy, pretty well-known movie theater, but it was slow at the time because it was the pandemic. But another thing why I chose ice cream, so I didn't think ice cream was recession-proof, but during the pandemic, people didn't stop taking their kids to ice cream shops.
Right.
Like
Ice
that
cream's
was
been
it
around
was
for ages.
it was
Yeah.
still a big thing, and I feel like that industry in itself was something that no matter what people are going through, so depending on your price point, because people have really high price and people just they're not taking their kids to buy a $10, $12 scoop of ice cream. And so it just and for me, what was important, how to bring those margins down in addition, um, was kind of I made everything from scratch. So I made all of my product. So which
Wow.
kind of gave me more of a profit margin in general. And so which in a sense I can give you bigger scoops of ice cream at a cheap price. And so that was kind of our model. That's why it was called the House of Scoops, because we literally
Oh,
give you scoops.
okay.
But yeah, so it just came about the brick and mortar, look for a location. We found something. And at that time, a lot of leasing, a lot of plots they were cutting deals. They just wanted people in there,
Right. Yeah.
right? And it was then, and unfortunately, there were businesses closing down, and so there were a lot of vacancies everywhere. And so, you think about it, but I took the shot. I was like, you know what? Why not just do it? And so that's how the brick and mortar came about. And even though I will probably get into the funding for it
Yeah.
down the line, but
I want to comment on, you said one of them, or they're actually two words, but you said two of my very favorite words on planet Earth that I would not think a marketing person would immediately have front of mind, and that's profit margins. Okay.
no.
I'm always screaming at people to understand their profit margins.
Hmm.
And talk a little bit about how did you have profit margins front of mind? Because marketing usually thinks, okay, we don't have to worry about profit. We just got to sell everything. We don't care about that. I'm exaggerating, but marketing doesn't think about profit as much as finance, like myself does. And it sounds like you looked at the profit margins before you went in, or maybe you became painfully aware of the need for profit margins as you were in. I don't know, but
Um,
can we talk about profit
before
margins?
before I went in, there was two approaches for me personally. You can buy a bag of dairy at a certain price, or you can make it from scratch. Just make with your own milk, cream, sugar, right? And kind of comparing the two, I wanted to save time, so I did get my base, just milk, sugar, cream, from a supplier, and from then I just have to buy the ingredients and looking at the price of my dairy versus the ingredients what I had to put in. I realized even before I opened that my profit margins were going to be pretty substantial. They were going to be pretty good. And so I just, and me, it was on the top of mind because, I guess I've been in marketing, so I've been around a lot of forecasting and things of that nature and how to, so I, I wasn't, I wouldn't have felt comfortable going in on that. I was just going to be able to just have the shop open. I
Right.
needed to kind of have a little bit more for other things. So it was a top of mind for me. I kind of going in, we were looking at like just coming up with a menu. But like I said, for me, the biggest thing was just um, how do we set ourselves apart from what's currently being done and what's out there. And so, fortunately for for me, I kind of looked at what was going on out there, and people weren't offering what I was offering, or what I wanted to offer, or what my mission statement, or what our whole look and feel and model was about. And so, but yeah, it was for me, it was kind of important to kind of understand the price points and what I'll be offering and how much can I offer.
Well, and it goes back to that point I always make. People ask me what the ideal profit margin is, and I say there's no number because you have to look at the whole cost structure. What is your
Hmm.
overhead? What is this, et cetera? So whereas you had high profit on the product, you had more money into the brick and mortar that some people that maybe have lower profit margins, and that's where
Absolutely right.
it all
Absolutely
comes
right.
together, especially Glendale, the brick and mortar, just brick and mortars in California as it is
Yeah.
expensive. I want to go on what you were just talking about, Fitzgerald, as you said, setting yourself apart, that's such a challenge in any company. And
Hmm.
you've got an industry that, ice cream's been around forever. So
Hmm.
you're the marketing specialist. Can you tell us a little bit about how you set yourself apart and how you came to the strategy?
Um, Early on, there's something that people, and I talked to some of my friends about it, because they want to do business, but they're scared to kind of go in certain industries. I learned early on, I learned doing marketing. It feels like there's two options, right? If you're literally not creating something new, you are recreating the wheel.
Right?
So if you're recreating the wheel, how do you put a spin on that wheel? How do you make that yours? Even if you're in the same industry, another thing doing marketing, you realize people are entering these spaces that are billion-dollar industries. All I want is a piece of that billion-dollar industry. I don't
Okay,
want the whole thing.
I gotta, that is so, I want Sadie, put that in, billion-dollar industries, all I need is a piece. I talked about that just recently because
Yeah,
people, small entrepreneurs are going, well, it's a billion-dollar market. I'm like, why are you even discussing that? You just need this much, be clear on
yeah,
getting this much. Please continue on that. That was such a great point. I want to make sure the audience caught that.
yeah. And so that was, like I said, initially when I thought about doing ice cream, it's like, well, there's a ton of ice cream out here. But you kind of look at what's being done and what's not being done, and of course, more so what I would like personally, what I would like to see being done as well, as far as from my point of view. And like I said, so I just look, like I said, competitive research, look at what people are doing, looking at what they're not doing, and kind of see if you can come up with something unique within that space. And so that was ultimately my strategy, coming up with something unique within a space that's already taken already, that's already full, and how can I put my spin on it? Um, and it's and the strategy, and I'll tell anyone, it's for me, it's are you going to, I would tell my partner, we're either going to, we can do this, I think, three different ways. We
Okay.
can create, we can have a lovely brand. 'Cause I know a lot of people have been in places that look lovely, looks great, feels great, but the product is terrible, right?
Yep. Seen
Or
those.
you go, but just like me, I like to go into these mom and pops that don't look so good, but then the food is great,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
right?
Right.
Or we can do both. I can
Ah,
be tight on my branding, I can be tight on my appearance, and I can be tight on the product that I have. And
yeah.
so that's what I chose. I chose to make sure that my branding and my approach was something fresh, unique that people out there weren't doing, and that I also had a very solid product that you would want to come back to every single time. So I tried to do both.
Now, in doing so, and I noticed this too, Fitzgerald. I talked about this with a couple guests. I know because I know their history. They did not skimp on the packaging. In your case, ice cream's not
Hmm.
packaged, but all the branding and the marketing. They said, you know what? I'm going to spend money. It's going to look like a beautiful brand from day one, and it made a big difference in their sales and their perception. So I can relate to what you're talking about. So as you were looking at creating this beautiful beautiful looking brand. Did you hire outside experts? Do you feel as though if somebody doesn't have that ability, they need to hire? Can they create it within I don't, I'm not going to continue with the question. You get what I'm asking.
No, I was broke. I was so I
Okay.
really I had enough money to kind of get my leasing. Um, and so I literally did the walls in my ice cream shop. I literally did the floors, which was epoxy glitter. I did it by
Oh,
hand. My wall was a full wall of logos that I created, and I literally stamped everyone with paint and a handmade stamp that I ordered. So partner and I were in our shop, literally stamping, taking measurements to make sure that it was even going across. The floors we did ourselves, the walls we did ourselves. Unfortunately, with that being said, guys, I didn't. Another thing, like I said, I do competitive research and going into certain spaces. Sometimes you have to make things work for you. I found a space that was ready to go. That was
oh,
actually used to be an ice cream shop. So
oh,
I was
okay.
fortunate enough, with that being said, I was fortunate enough to have a walk-in freezer, a walk-in refrigerator, which I had to repair both because they both were broken. So I paid to repair both of them. So I was fortunate enough to have that space already there. And so I didn't change anything about the counter layout. We changed a few things, but like I said, I literally repainted the entire shop. We literally did the floors, did the walls, and I had a huge flower neon wall up that I did by hand. And so like I said, that's how I kind of made things happen. Coming in knowing I didn't have um that much money to kind of spend on a full build out the way I wanted it to be. But in my head, I'm like, this is just the first one. I can kind of let's just see how this goes. So let me just get in. So
And in the lease, because a lot of times I tell people that when you negotiate a lease, often you have to do a personal guarantee.
mhm.
Was that a lighter thing because of the pandemic, or did you get dragged into the regular solid leases that you have to have that have a longer term and a personal guarantee?
Yes, yes. Well, actually, luckily for me, it wasn't. We didn't have to be personal guarantors. But it was a longer lease though. It was a 5-year term. So
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, you probably had yeah, they were desperate at that time. They were so
mhm,
desperate, finding anybody that wanted to lease a space
at
probably
that
gave
time,
it advantage.
yes.
Okay, so you've got these beautiful space that you're within. You've got your brick and mortar. Walk us through like walk us through getting the vendors set up because that's another thing. I mean, you didn't have a lot of things, but you still had to get all these things to be delivered and everything set up. How was that, especially during a pandemic when it was so hard to get anything?
Well, my thing was at the time was because we made a lot of things literally from scratch. Like I wanted fresh strawberries, I wanted fresh blueberries, I wanted
Yeah.
everything fresh. And a part of my thing was I've been to a few states. I've traveled a little bit across the United States. And I've been to places where they have things that are unique to their state. Like, for example, fluff in Boston is unique to Boston, if anybody's familiar. Just a marshmallow textured, just like marshmallow, but a little bit sweeter. I believe they don't have eggs in it, but it's so that was one of my ingredients for one of my ice creams. So I literally, depending on what state I wanted a certain ingredient, I'll reach out directly to the manufacturer, say, I need this, I would want this in bulk. How can we make this happen? And so there were companies that didn't necessarily, before I reached out, did it. So what they would accommodate and send me things in bulk. But sometimes, depending if you're not, luckily most of the times we were good on staying ahead of schedule and staying on top of things like that. But sometimes they wouldn't have it for 2, 3 weeks and that flavor would be out. But in addition to that, like I said, I personally went and picked up everything in person. I did the Restaurant Depot runs. I personally went to wherever is a grocery store that had to pick up certain things. And so that's how in the beginning, that's how it started. That's for a long time it did. For most part, that's like I said, when I talk about profit margins, so I looked at versus a lot of vendors. And at the end, like so when I started doing adding onto my menu. Then we would work with like Southwest Traders is one of our vendors we worked with. And like I forgot the other website, but yeah, we worked with like two on a regular basis. But yeah, in the beginning, it was just farmers markets, things that were fresh, and the other things that we couldn't get fresh, we would try to figure something out.
You know, it's so funny. I have this off thought, and I have to say it, it keeps going through my mind. I'm thinking you probably went to the best therapist ever during the pandemic because being engaged in all of that stuff had to bring your spirit up when everybody else was just like at the bottom. It must have been just refreshing to go from being furloughed, sitting there, what am I going to do, to all of a sudden being engaged in all these activities.
Yes, it was. It was. I worked every day. I literally worked 7 days a week for maybe the first year and a half. So even when I didn't have to be there, I showed up there. I
Yeah.
just, like it's you put your everything into something. You just want to make sure it succeeds. So I literally worked myself to death for the first year and a half until I slowed down to 6 days. Um,
Yeah.
but but yeah, but it's refreshing. And the thing is, I tell people when you come to it's rare you have anybody walking into an ice cream shop with a bad attitude. And
Yeah.
personally, I love when I see kids. They love your product. Even when parents and adults, they come in, when people coming on date night and they're getting ice cream. I enjoy it. I enjoy it. And so that's what kind of kept me going.
Okay, so unfold the story. I'm just gonna say what happened next. Let you
Um,
go forever.
what after when I shut down?
Yeah, so you open the doors.
Yeah.
So you got it
Oh,
all. You open the doors. Was there a flood of customers? Were people at that time not wanting to go out? What happened when you opened the doors and
it
said,
was
"Hey, I'm
actually it
ready"?
was
What
actually
happened?
pretty good.
Okay.
The response we got was pretty good. The community, a lot of support. It's busy. Like ice cream shops, like during the week it gets a little slow, but Friday, Saturday, and Sunday those are guaranteed days. We had people kind of waiting until we were people online to the door, waiting online for ice cream. So it was very good for a long time. At that point it was going so well. I didn't open on some certain Mondays. And then I changed my mind because I wanted every penny. So then I started opening on Mondays as well. But it was pretty good at that point. And at that point I was trying to figure out ways how to maximize even more and how to kind of like even like the shortcomings on like for me at that point it was more so, okay, we know Thursday through Saturday, it's through Sunday, guaranteed.
Right.
Now, how about Monday through Wednesday? How do I pick up on those days? And then, you just think of promotions, what kind of things you can do to get people through your doors. So at the beginning, not at all. I was very blessed and very fortunate in the beginning. Yeah.
So by this time, you're probably forgetting full-time job or what you used to do, or you're totally
Oh,
believe.
it was
Yeah, this
gone. Full
it was
time
gone
what?
in your yeah.
I'm not going back to no, no. It wasn't happening for me. It was no, because in my mind started going into just it was going to what people were asking about franchising opportunities and when was I going to franchise? When we going to franchise? But it was so new to me. I just did not. I wasn't ready for a lot. I got offers to do like film festivals throughout, and Newport Beach, and so I just wasn't ready because to me, I need to, and that's why I worked a lot. So I need to know this industry even more. I need to know what I'm getting myself into, what to expect. But yeah, I definitely, but I just felt like I needed more time to make those bigger decisions, and not rush into anything. But if I had some advisors like I've had from the SPDC, I probably would have been able to make a decision a lot sooner on those things.
Well, okay, so I am like in the audience in the cliffhanger right now on the edge of my chair, and I'm just dying to know. And I'm the host, I get to ask the question, what happened when it started to turn? What was the impetus that was starting to cause this turn?
The leasing company brought in a direct competitor. So in my lease, you're not allowed to sell more than, I believe, 15% or 20% of ice cream, anybody, nobody else in the plaza. But this competitor, half the menu was ice cream. And then they sold it in at a very cheaper, and it was a big company. It was a very big company, not a small mom and pops. It was a very big
Right.
company. And so they allowed them to sell more than 20%. And when we brought up brought up our concerns, they were like, they can lie to us about their numbers, we can't technically regulate. So they pretty much told us they weren't going to do anything. And that was just the start of yeah. So
Whoa,
that's
I
what,
wasn't expecting that in the story. I could have made up
yeah,
a million new stories, and that wouldn't have been one of them. So
yeah.
this new competitor comes in, it's more of a corporation, they can offer
Mhm.
it at a lower amount. From a marketing standpoint, were you trying to differentiate? Tell us more about like when that first
Um,
happened, what but you
I had
tried
to
to do it.
turn it up a notch. So I pretty
Yeah.
much started offering things that they were offering. And
Oh,
so,
there
and
goes
then
the
I had
profit
to,
margin.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then I expanded, I had to start expanding my menu. So I had to get creative. I had to be more active on social. I had to be, just had to, offer, like I said, promotes had to go up, and and that's what I did. And it was a take. It was a very uptick in sales for a while. And so because I was kind of getting my this product from a fresh bakery and took it to add it to mine. So I had a partnership. I started a new partnership with another small mom and pops, and so I had their products, and then that started, I started pairing their products with my ice cream, and people loved that. And so
Oh,
that kind of sustained us for a while. But when you're going against somebody that big for that long, it's kind of hard to kind of sustain. And I literally do everything on my own, the marketing, I do promotions, I'm building the website, I'm doing the social media, I'm doing it all on my own, which was a big mistake. I should have um, probably hired help at that point to
you
do
didn't
help
have
with
the
that sort of.
cash like that, and what the
Yeah.
story is so fascinating is and I'm speculating here, Fitzgerald, I'm totally speculating, but had that happened
Yeah.
2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, you would have had more of a following, you would have had more cash in your pocket,
Hmm.
you would have been more on level ground, you suddenly were fighting a fight that you weren't really even established yourself enough to fight in many ways. Is that true, or did I just make that up? That's what
No,
I'm
it's very true. It's very true. Yeah, it's very true. And that's why but I tried that at that moment. I was like, I should probably, yeah, I wasn't well equipped for it. But yeah.
Now, a lot of times when that happens to companies, then what? When they're trying so desperately to compete, they end up harming themselves financially with lower profit lines, new
Hmm.
products that are less profitable, but they take more energy and effort. So it derails them from here to here. I see it
Hmm.
all the time. I'm always talking about that. Do you feel like that happened a bit as well?
Um, in a sense, it kind of did a little bit. Kind of, took away from
That's
our
what I was
core what
thinking a
we're,
minute ago, is
yeah.
your core that you had established was suddenly kind of being slowly chipped away at.
Yeah, yeah. It was like I said, it took about another like almost a year for it to kind of really take effect. But yeah, just yeah. Between that, the payroll and other things, yeah.
What ended up happening through that year? So here you're neck and neck trying to battle it,
Hmm.
and at some point you're getting more products sold with this uniqueness and this
Hmm.
coupling with partners. What was the defining moment where you were neck and neck and suddenly you weren't anymore and you started
That
that
winter, typically ice cream shops do get a little slower in the
way?
winter time, and so with that winter, after coming back the following like early spring, you could tell it was a little different. It was a little different. So and at that point it's about 2 years in. But yeah, that winter is when you can you started noticing. Yeah.
Yeah, because the winters where you had to have enough excess cash to carry you,
Hmm.
through your seasonal, because you have a bit of a seasonal business. Not that people don't eat ice cream, especially in California in the winter, but they're not out, the family's not there, the kids aren't on, going to the movies and stuff like that. So you probably didn't have the resources, especially with the additional resources you had to unexpectedly invest to fight the competitor
Yeah.
to sustain yourself during the winter. What was the top things that started to happen when you started to have to go into your thoughts and say, I don't know if we're going to make it? And, for our audience, anything you can share with us on that, because that is the scariest thing in most people's mind. And if you can walk us through kind of what happened, what was the impetus, and how did the thinking start, and what did you do after that?
Well, for me, it was a start of a sour relationship with the leasing. And that's where,
Yeah,
and at that point, that's when I started thinking, okay, it's time to probably get out of here soon.
yeah.
And so that was the first thing I thought of. And at that point, it was just like an exit plan and thinking of what was next. And that's when I kind of started my mobile unit and getting
Okay,
out.
that's right. Tell us about that. So how
Yeah.
were you able to get away from the lease? Were you able to get out of the lease when you started the mobile unit?
Yeah, they gave us the option. They gave us the option to get out of my lease later on. kind of like we can walk away. So,
Okay, awesome.
but I'm still in contact with them about a few things, in all honesty. So, so we'll see how things go. But they gave us the option to kind of get out of there. And at that point, it was funny because that, like I mentioned, that spring when I started noticing things were getting slower. But before that spring, I actually bought an ice cream truck.
Right,
So
right. And by the way, I gotta say, as we go here, this is an entrepreneur, guys. Okay, the going gets tough. Let's pivot here. Let's pivot. Let's pivot. So now we come in ice cream truck. So tell us
yeah.
all about that. I love this
So
story. This is awesome.
so I bought an ice cream truck, and I just I have a few things to do to it. Still a few more things to kind of add and to upgrade it. So I bought the ice cream truck, but in addition to the ice cream truck, I bought a 14 whole pretty much a mobile cart, pretty large cart that holds 14 flavors. And so at that time, and luckily, like the food truck community, they're very tight. And I met someone who walked in one day. She used to see me at my ice cream shop every day. So she would come in and be like, "You have a truck?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's being worked on." Chef, you have anything else? I'm like, "Well, I have a cart, but I'm trying to, I'm just so busy here." She was like, "Listen," and so she connected me with somebody who books people for events. But the thing is, my product was so unique, my brand was so unique. She wanted, like, I met her. I think I had one conversation where, and like 4 days later, she called me to do an event. And so I was fortunate enough to be at a location where the cart was there Saturdays and Sundays and did pretty well on those 2 days. And so, and in addition to that, just like she told me once I finished the truck, then I would do more of the bigger events that, that I can, because of the capacity of my cart. And so and it started, and that actually started a whole nother thought process for me because I saw how well the cart did just on 2 to 3 days of
And I
being
love this because
out.
you're like, okay, fine, you bring a competitor in. I'm mobile now. I don't need you. And see, I love freedom and flexibility. So I love it.
Yeah,
At this
yeah,
point, emotionally, was there like, okay, this is hope. We got a new direction. We're moving up now. We got
yeah.
ability. Yeah.
But yeah, after being in it in a while, being in the industry for a while, I even started noticing that you know what? And I didn't do enough events. Like I started noticing there was opportunity for weddings, there was opportunities for even just going to hospitals, going to nursing homes, going to certain places and starting partnerships. And in addition to like larger events that I would get booked for. It just and that's what kind of initially said, and like you said, maybe the whole thing happening at my brick and mortar was what triggered that because I was like, I can't sit still. I just have to keep moving and expanding. Um, and like I said, and talking to people from the kind of the food truck industry and knowing how well that they were doing, and so I had, and you'd be surprised the numbers that these food trucks are bringing in on some of these events, and they might have to do one event a month. That's how well some of these events are. And then I was burnt out. I'm not gonna say kind of. I was burnt out. I worked a lot at that point, and it did kind of give me an alternative to working every day. So, well, maybe if I have the truck, I can just maybe just do events on the weekends or 4 days a week. But I do want a brick and mortar. Again, I still love the brick and mortar. It worked out pretty well for me. But then it's kind of expanded my thoughts to brick and mortar and having the truck and a few smaller mobile units that can be at smaller events. And so expanding the business in that direction. Maybe, and I had a pretty large location, my brick and mortar. So like I said, downsizing, like you mentioned, the rent was a little high because I was in a really popular plaza. Rent was kind of high. So let me get out of this situation when the rent is high, lower my rent, become more mobile and add more mobile units. So that's where my thought process was going.
You know what's fascinating to me is you were able to uncover or discover, whichever word we want to use, several little truths. Like you found, okay, this branding and uniqueness. Okay, people love ice cream. Okay, I can be mobile now. Oh, events really pay off. And I would say, from looking at so many financials in my life, especially food trucks, those that own their own truck, meaning they don't have a fleet of trucks, right? Because you have to have a pretty big fleet where it becomes profitable. But those that are have a truck and do events, that's where I see the money. It's the events, pull it in, and then maybe I'm making this up, but maybe every Tuesday and Wednesday they're on this street, but then they do an event on the weekend,
Exactly.
and it's ching, 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 and then they go Tuesday,
Exactly.
Wednesday on this street and they do an event, or they don't go on the
Hmm.
street at all. They just do events, and that's where it's you're catering the company. You're
Yeah.
starting to put catering amounts rather than just
Yes.
selling. So I can see that, but now you've tasted, pun intended, a little bit of all of these truths that you learned along this way. So walk us through what happened with the food truck and the cart. How long did that take place, and where was its rise, and then where was its fall?
Well, the food truck, it was still being built out, still being worked out
Okay,
on,
the
because
cart.
I literally bought it maybe 6 months, 6, 7 months before I closed down. So it still had like needed an engine swap, needed a few things done to it cosmetically and in interior. So it was being built out, being worked on, and I still had the brick and mortar. But then the cart was out 3 days a week at that point.
Gotcha,
So I
gotcha.
had the cart out at 3 days a week at that point. And then later on, late last year is when I shut down the brick and mortar. And at that time I could have continued on with um, just the cart, but I'll admit I was defeated after shutting down the brick and
I
mortar.
can
I was just
understand.
wasn't,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
I
know,
wasn't in the right space.
I go back to, and your story reminds me so much of when I started my company at 25, just a few years ago, right? Yeah. And at 31, I had so many things happen to me, like you, some of the situations I just had no control over, and I had nothing left in me. And what I did, I actually moved to another state then, and I was like, I just want to be a friggin' employee. I just want to, go, I just need a break. I felt like I needed to get on an island and breathe. And I interviewed some place and they're like, how about being a manager? I'm like, no, I just want to be a salesperson. I don't care what I sell. Just let me go in a corner and sell stuff. And then I got all these job offers and I looked at this one and it was selling copiers. And I said to myself, literally, Fitzgerald, I said, there's no way in hell I can get passionate about a copier. I'm going to take this one because I didn't want to have any more of me in anything. Right.
Uh,
And I'm like, there's just selling a copier, how could I fall in love with that? This will give me a place to transition. I know so well that emotion, and that was so long ago for me, but I still remember it.
you're absolutely right. You hit it right on the nail. I was just at that point. I didn't lose motivation, but after working 6 to 7 days for the last 2.5, 3 years and putting your all into something, and it was just, I felt like I probably should regroup,
Yeah.
had to get my head together, and like I said, and come back with a solid game plan because when I come back, there's not going to be any more regrouping. So
Yeah,
there's,
yeah.
so that was my approach. And like I said, it was a very emotional time for me. I'll admit it was extremely emotional for me to shut down my business. It was, yeah.
Oh, I bet. And see, I love what we're talking about now because it explains to people, and I tell entrepreneurs, especially a lot of them right now that are looking at having to close their company because of things that happen. I said, getting a job doesn't mean you're always going to be an employee,
Hmm.
but sometimes recovering on somebody else's paycheck paying you is not a bad thing, not a bad thing at all. And that's how I felt. And I stayed at the company that I went to for, I think it was 2 years, and they begged me to stay. They even said, how about taking some time off? They tried to do everything to keep me to stay.
Hmm.
And I said, no, the little birdie's got to fly from the nest again. I got to go now. I'm okay now. I got to go. And I
Hmm.
did. I flew from the nest again. But you know what? If I hadn't taken that job, I don't know if there would have been anything left to Lori. I just gave so much.
I agree. I totally agree. And that's pretty much where I'm at right now. Just kind of got back into the marketing field, and yeah, it's good. It's cool, but it's just I have an itch. And I've always had this itch before I even started marketing.
And once
I've
you've been free and you've been creative and you start
Yeah.
creating your own yeah, that was my thing at 25, more out of desperation than inspiration. I started my company, and it's like once you do, it's really, I mean, I'm not saying that you people don't become employees for life, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. And
Yeah.
it's a good thing to temporary, but it's in the back of your mind what that felt like, isn't it?
It's Listen, I work pretty hard, and I'll be honest with you, I'd rather work this harder for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I get
And
it.
that's just it for me. And it's nothing, like I said, there's nothing wrong with 9 to 5, but
Right.
like I said, even when I started my first marketing job, I always said to me, I am taking everything I learned here, just open up my own business.
Yeah.
From the start, I've always said that. And like I said, the ice cream shop was unexpected for me. I didn't think that was going to happen, but like I said, God's a play with it. Well, I've been thinking about ice cream. It's been on my mind, so I did it. But like I said, it's just, like I said, it's, like I said, I just rather put forth this effort towards my own business, and I rather do that any day of the week. And it's funny, even Mark Cuban had a saying that kind of triggered me maybe like 7, 8 years ago when he said, I'd rather make 80 grand working for myself to make 120 working for somebody else. I was like,
I get that.
what?
I get that.
What?
Yeah.
Why would and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I'd rather do that. So and that's just where I'm personally at. So
Yeah, I remember especially when I was in my early days in my own company, it was like the stupid thing to do. You should be in a corporation and you should get benefits. That was back in the day, right? That was a long time ago. But I remember somebody said to me one time, "Aren't you afraid to be an entrepreneur?" They didn't use that word then, but aren't you afraid to have your own company? Aren't you afraid? And I said, "No, I'm afraid of being an employee," because at the time I saw like 2 or 3 companies shut down, not tell me all of a sudden you're laid off with everybody else. It was back in like the 80s and 90s in Texas, and a lot of companies were shutting down, and there wasn't the HR rules. You didn't have to be informed or anything like that. And so that's why I said I started mine out of desperation, but I was like, well, at least I know what I'm afraid of. I know what's coming around the corner rather than feeling like somebody else could decide. So I actually started in my progression just being more afraid to be under somebody's control and direction than to screw up myself, you know?
yeah,
I get that. And now it's just an empowerment thing. I can't imagine for now decades upon decades about decades of having my own company, not being able to comfortably and easily and with flexibility include my creativity and ideas in my everyday existence. That
like
sounds like it resonates with you on that too.
man, it does. It does. Like so when I do things now, I just can't help but to think about, like I say, just having that freedom and that control, and it's just something, a feeling that it does a satisfying feeling that it gives you. So yeah, I totally agree. Right.
Well, and I know I can say this with, I'm going to say a conviction. I'm going to use a strong word that I know you're planning and you're thinking about where you're going to go next, but I can say with a conviction that when you do, what you went through is going to make you so much of a stronger, more, I'm going to use the word wisdom. Wisdom is based on the truth. You learn so many truths about being in business that you're going to start with such great wisdom. And you hear this from so many business owners, myself included. It wasn't the first company, it was the several
Yeah,
companies
yeah,
afterwards.
yeah,
If you have any that come to mind of really and it can be things we already talked about, but the takeaways on the wisdom that you're so
yeah.
glad you have in your back pocket now that you'll be using as you go down the new pathway.
I mean, there's a lot that you have to, and even early on, I know my sister used to tell me all the time, you have to do a little more delegating and stop trying to do everything myself.
Mhm. Yeah.
I literally, like I said, marketing, I was there every day. I try to do, no, you can't do everything yourself, even hire a little bit more help if it's needed. And fortunately for me, another thing that was another boost in my confidence and even saying, okay, it's time to regroup and and take another shot at this was taking the courses and meeting with the advisors from the SBDC. So just SBDC, but just learning, just kind of talking to you guys and being able to kind of bounce ideas off of someone was very helpful because I didn't have that. I literally did everything myself. I was in my head about everything. I came with all the plans. I didn't have anybody to sit there and talk to, like, hey, listen, this is what I'm thinking. This is the direction I want to go in. As far as finances, I wasn't sitting down and doing my finances the way I should be. I had QuickBooks, but QuickBooks isn't a lorry, if I'm being honest with you.
It's
Like that,
not.
it's
Yep,
not,
it
they're
doesn't.
not you. And so just the number of advisors that I've been able to come in contact with and have been able to sit down with, and the confidence that they've kind of put in me and knowing my story and kind of that's something I wouldn't replace. It's just seeking out help when you need it, but also like I said, just constant work. There's nothing wrong with it, but yeah, just kind of like I said, just reaching out for help and not killing yourself trying to do everything. Like I said, even when things, like I said, even when things go wrong, just learn how to pivot
Yeah.
within your industry and things of that nature. But yeah.
You know, there was a book I read decades ago, so I can't recall it to give credit to the author. But
Yeah.
in this, they said that they had done, they were talking about their company, their small company. They had done so much with so little that they got the misbelief that they could do everything with nothing.
Mm,
And I remember it was just on a page of the book, and I remember I read it when I was like 30, and it's always stuck with me. And that's what happens. We put our head down and we start doing things, then we start thinking, well, we can just do everything with no money, no help, no this, and it's not feasible. It's just I go through that all the time. I'm such a doer and a DIY and independent, and I can do it. And sometimes I go, yeah, you can do it, but should you do it? That's the bigger question. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. That's something I always have to remind myself very much so. You
absolutely
know, and I
right.
want to do a quick shout out. SBDC has many programs, and I met you and you came through the Black Business Strategies group
Hmm.
that's headed up by Joseph. What's Joseph's last name? I can't think of it at the top of my head.
Jackson.
Jackson, I was
Jackson.
going to say, I know him so well. Sometimes you get to know people so well, you forget their last name. I was like, I just know Joseph. I just adore
Yeah.
him. He's
He's
a
great.
great,
No, he's
and
great.
I,
Yeah.
and I know there's some people that are in the audience in the chat right now that has also come through that group. So
Yeah.
SBDC's got lots of different groups that you can go through. So wanted to do a shout out. So I know we talked recently that you're just kind of playing with new ideas. Anything you want
Mm.
to share with the audience on not necessarily where you're going, but what are your thoughts about, getting back out there? What are you thinking now about it? Anything that, is something you'd like to share?
Well, yeah, I plan on at first I just wanted to come back with the ice cream truck, but the past like few months I've decided that I'm gonna probably open up another brick and mortar. I know a lot of people don't want to, but I want to kind of come back with the truck and the brick and mortar at the same
Yeah.
time. And in addition, like I after reevaluating the winter, like I said, things slow down towards the winter, so I've come up with an idea to combat that probably expanding my product offering so then it's never going to slow down. If
Okay.
it, even for one aspect does or one like ice cream slowing down, the other thing will kind of be able to kind of carry through at a good at a good pace and make us to make it'll be profitable. So yeah.
I love how you've taken the experiences. I can tell already with what you just said. You're like, oh, I learned this. We're going to combat that. I learned this. We're going to combat that. I want to
Mhm.
go back to something I didn't ask earlier on, and I should have, and I just thought of it. Is what can you share with the audience about funding? Because obviously, we only have so much money we can get as
Yeah.
an or we can say, well, you should have adequate funding. It's like, yeah, and well, I don't. I just don't, and that we don't. But given that, that's a great thing to say, but then there's reality. What can you
Mhm.
share with everybody about just having funding?
I was, it's funny, initially I was scared. I could have taken out a $150,000 loan to get started, but I was so new to the industry and I didn't know how my business was going to do.
Right,
The thought
right.
of having to kind of pay that back at the time was
Yeah,
like,
you don't.
no. But this, when I think back to it, it would have been, I should have taken the money. But like I said, that's why I decided to kind of fund everything out of pocket in the beginning. But there are tons of, like I said, because of the advising I've been able to receive from SBDC, and now at this point, knowing that me personally know my business model, that small business loans and just the rates on those some of them are favorable and they work in your favor, and you have grants and so many different options that you can just kind of get out there and look for those. They're very helpful. I don't necessarily recommend going out of pocket paying for everything because you want to hold on to those funds. So if you
Yeah.
can kind of, but you like just do a solid business plan. If you have a Lori in your corner that you can talk to, I know you've definitely helped me kind of reanalyze, look at things, and kind of think about my approach. I'm going in, and like I said, I even have one of the advisors that works that's from the SBDC that works closely with SB, and we've been in contact, and so I'm keeping him updated on my movements, and he wants to know, when I get to a certain point, we're going to have a conversation because I'm probably going to go and look for funding this time around.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you like it all depends. It all depends. I'm not going to tell anybody to absolutely do it, but if you can get the funding, if you get something that you're comfortable with, and like I said, and you have a solid game plan, if you can forecast your numbers out, and you feel good about it, you should definitely try to get an SBA. But yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's very true. And one of the comments you said about, you know, should have took the funding or not. I think there's also this thing called timing. You know, some people call it divine timing. I'm not trying to make any expressions as that, but you know, I'm old now and I can look back in my life and I can say things like, "Oh, thank you, universe, for not letting me date him," or something like that. Those are the kind of things
That's too
everybody understands. But you know, there's things about timing that sometimes we are supposed to have a little bit of a flavor of it, but when it comes back later, it's going to come back right. And then
funny.
everything falls into place. So at least you don't have a debt right now that you have to pay it back. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why I really love to express there's no wrong choices. Wherever you're supposed to be, you're there right now. Whatever didn't work was an experience. It's all
Mhm.
about adventure and experience. And if we don't get caught up in our ego, we can look at life as a grand adventure and just
Yeah.
play and experience.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
Well, I can't thank you enough. I'm serious. This has been just a fascinating discussion. And I know we had a big audience today. I know that they could resonate with it. And many of them have felt all or some or a portion of the emotions or are feeling them today. And you being so real and honest and coming out and talking today is just such a great honor for all of us that we're here to hear your story.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here today, and I appreciate, like I said, appreciate what you've been helping me with. So, not a problem. And like I said, if I can share my story, and if anybody hears my stories and feels encouraged, that's great. And like I said, there's a lot of people, told a lot of friends and some people that want to start their business, and they have a lot of hesitation, and they kind of they don't know what they're going to do. Just like I said, if you kind of just passionate about something, don't just keep talking about it. Start putting a pen to the paper. Start putting your business plan together. Start doing competitive research. Start looking into options, and like I said, and then it'll take off from there. And like I said, it's not for the faint of heart either. Right? But this is not people might think the trade-off is, oh, I won't be working. I won't be, well, depending if you're franchising, maybe you won't be working. But like there's a lot of people that I've gained, especially the food truck industry, I've gained a lot of respect for these people that do it. A lot of people, the small business owners, because they work and
They
they work
do work.
very
They
hard.
do. I know. I know
So
many of them. They work.
but the thing is, you're working for yourself at that point, and the satisfaction that, like, even when I worked every day, I didn't feel like I was working every day. My body felt like it was working every day, but I loved it. Absolutely, I don't have any complaints. I don't regret anything I've done. So
I love it because you're an actual showing to everybody out there that if you are on the precipice of having to maybe shut down your company, you're thinking about it,
mhm,
it's starting to take your health away, which is where I felt as a young person. I was like, oh my God, this is making me physically sick because I won't let go of it. There's a
mhm,
tomorrow, and that tomorrow can be filled with all the experience and understanding and wisdom. Because what you
yeah,
just spoke to me as you were speaking of it, I'm like, okay, that's wisdom. What you're talking is wisdom, and wisdom is based on truth, and wisdom is based on experience. And that's what you just shared. And wisdom is like our pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Wisdom has more value than any currency, any Bitcoin, anything we can have, because wisdom just grows and grows and grows, and it can make things manifest quicker than anything else in our life will. And you gained a lot of wisdom. So
yeah.
I think your business was a huge success.
Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Well, thanks again. Well, Sadie, another one, another great, great episode. I know I say that every week. Another great episode. Man,
Well, we learn so much every single week. Like, I think every episode is great in its own way. I mean, for this one, I was just like, and I think I really appreciate that. It's what we learn and like the big takeaways. And it's like, I don't know, it's like sometimes people are like, and this is me giving a little shout out to the SBDC, but it's like, you don't have to go at it alone. And sometimes just having that support is something that we need, because I mean, when you're in it, you're in it. I mean, it's like the day to day. So I think that's how I can tie the two together, where it's like, you know what, I can't wait to what amazing things you're going to do in the future with the SBDC's help.
absolutely. You know, and I
Yeah.
think about it when I was younger, if I had a lorry, because remember, I was in marketing at that didn't understand profit margin. If I had a lorry at the SBDC, oh my God, the years I would have saved. But I guess I got all the wisdom to come share it with everybody else. So that's another way of looking at it as well. Well, Fitzgerald, I'm looking forward to us having many more conversations, because I
Yes.
want to be in the front of what you're doing and where you're going as well. Because I just know you're going to find your spot, you're going to jump into it, and you're going to bring your wisdom and and you're going to succeed in whatever form it takes. Because just like I
Thank
said,
you.
being alive and engaged in life is success. That's basically
Thank you. Thank
all
you.
it
Thank
takes
you.
to be
Thank you.
successful. So I want to
Yep.
say a big shout out to those of you who are here every week on the show, frequent flyers, as I lovingly call you. I appreciate you so much. And if you are new to the show, please check back for another episode next week with Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. Sadie's going to stay behind a little bit, make sure everybody's got my information, any information you need. Oh, Angelo, welcome, welcome. I see somebody new. So good to see that. I think I might have got an email from you as well. And if that, because I don't remember the last name, but if you were the one that wrote about small businesses and grants, stay tuned. I think it's next week. We're going to be talking about that. I failed to get the date in. I think I messed up on the date, but it's next week. We're going to talk about that. So tune in next week and you'll get an answer. Look at Fitzgerald. Before I hang up, look at this. Look at all of the great stuff. Look
Thank
at
you.
this.
Yeah, no, thank you, everyone.
Look at
Thank you,
that.
everyone. I
Like
really appreciate it. Thank you.
I told you sharing your story makes such a difference to the audience. Look at this. I mean, you look at these at the
Thank you.
end, you go, okay, it was all worth it because look at the lives
Thank
we've
you.
got. Look at the
Thank you,
lives we've
guys. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate
got.
it. Thank
Okay,
you for the kind words. Thank you.
awesome. Thanks again, everybody. And bye. And I say to you, take it over from here. I'm out of here. Fitzgerald's out of here. See you next week, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.